It's the Brad and John Show.
July 8th, this is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we started right around 7:40 but not too bad this morning, 7:42, so we're not too late this morning. John, yesterday, you know what's so funny to me about this? Let's go back.
What's this, Brad? And what is this?
Okay, the Randy Raley thing, okay?
And for folks who don't know, yesterday on July 7th, on the Mark Reardon Show, we discussed this in A Block today, which is July 8th. Yesterday, July 7th, Randy Raley was on the Mark Reardon Show, 97.1 FM. Pick it up there, Brad.
Randy Raley is a guy who, if you're on Facebook, he's always recounting his days at KSHE. Randy Raley originally, I think he was born somewhere in Missouri. I don't know, maybe born in Kansas City. He worked at KY 102, which was the KSHE type station in St. Louis. And then he came here, and he's always lamenting the fact that when he came to St. Louis, he was not treated well by the staff because he wasn't a St. Louis boy, that all the other people on KSHE were all St. Louisans, with the exception of JC, Mark Close, St. Louis boy, all this kind of stuff. Okay, Randy Raley has worked at KBDZ for a while. I promoted KBDZ and took a tongue lashing from Kev Russell because how dare me put their media page on my Facebook page because I'm trying to promote them, and I was tongue lashed by Kev Russell, who is the general manager there, whatever the hell he does. I don't know. Okay, I was somewhat taken aback, I guess 2 weeks ago, when on Randy Raley's Facebook page, he was railing about, isn't it interesting, Randy Raley railing about, he was railing about his congressman and congresswoman, and the name did not ring a bell. And John, do you know who this lady is? Mary something?
No, I don't follow Illinois at all. If it's not the Budzinski gal across the road or Mike Bost,
no,
I don't even know their names.
It's not them. It's Mary Hill or something like that.
Yeah, Mary Miller. It's some name like that, and she's a Republican, right?
Right, she's a Republican, and Randy is a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. And a couple weeks ago, he announced he was going to run for Congress. And when I saw this, I thought to myself, I thought he lived here in Missouri. I thought he lived down, in Perryville or something like that, where the radio station is. He doesn't even live in the state anymore. He lives in Illinois. So he's running for Congress. So as the story goes, Mark Reardon, who is very selective who he has on as guest, and rarely has Democrats on his show, except for the Friday, the round table.
The Reardon Roundtable.
The Reardon Roundtable. He had Randy Raley on for 2 segments. Okay, Randy Raley is a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat liberal, okay? Nothing against that. More power to him. But I find it interesting that he's essentially and Mark even said to him, hey, you're up against a woman who's got $2 million in her bank account right now for re-election, and you got nothing. And he thinks he's going to be able to make a go of it. And he's talking about, well, I'm going to go talk to people. I'm going to go shake hands. Is that the ultimate in naivete, John? I mean, being that you're the political guru, if someone...
I'm not a guru, but let me interrupt, Brad. A year ago, we had a local political celebrity, Ray Hartmann, taking on Ann Wagner, a safe incumbent. And Brad, with all due respect, throughout the campaign, you pointed out that, well, Ray Hartmann, I just saw on Facebook, he met with 6 hobos under a bridge in Pacific. He's really out there pressing the flesh. So with all due respect, Brad, it's not the first time that we've heard patsies fall for a media personality running a feudal campaign against a congressional incumbent.
So that is your synopsis right there?
Yeah, I know nothing about the Illinois district, but it's a story as old as time. Whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, people that mathematically have no chance of winning have such a huge ego that they think, well, Democrats haven't seen a candidate like me before, and I can be the one that knocks off the incumbent. When really, they want to just see their name on some signs, and they want to be a big shot for a few months.
So you really think that's what it is? You don't think he really has a core belief that he can make a difference, that he can change things, he can help the American people, that he can put a chicken in every pot and an alarm system in every...
Let me interrupt, Brad. They're not mutually exclusive. There's a lot of people who think they would do good if they were elected, but they're so delusional that they think that they have a chance of winning. Now, I don't know if, for example, I don't think last year when Ray Hartmann ran against Ann Wagner, I think Ray knew that he didn't have any chance of winning. I think Ray thought it would be cool to be the Democrat candidate and make some money, pay himself while he's running, and, live free for a few months and drink some nice wine and have people applaud you when you speak.
That was the funniest part of that. Wasn't he paying himself? Didn't he pay himself like $80,000 or something like that?
It was a lot of money. Yeah, it was a substantial amount of money for
he's
sure.
Paying himself to run for office. I'm thinking to myself, and you know
maybe
what?
Randy Raley could do that, Brad.
Maybe he can do it. See, the thing that took me aback I'm going like, I thought the guy, because here's the interesting thing. If you go to, here, I'll do the go right now. I'll go to KBDZ. I'll go to their website right now. Okay, KBDZ, their website right there, and it comes up, Classic Rock 93.1, and right there on the front page is Randy Raley's mug, and it says, #1 rated morning show, #1 rated St. Louis personality, St. Louis Magazine. He doesn't live here. He lives somewhere else. I mean, doesn't that disqualify him as a St. Louis Magazine recipient of their awards?
Well, I mean, that assumes that you would think that those awards are based on merit, Brad.
You don't think they're based on merit, John?
I mean, come on, Brad.
Come on,
have you ever seen the Business Journal leaders or the Titan 100? Like, if you read those and you take them at face value, there's probably just not much I could say.
John, have you ever been on one of those awards like that?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I won 30 under 30 in my day.
Really?
Yeah, I don't go around talking about it because you know how I am. Yeah, and it was unique because I was one of the only people that the year that I won. So I worked for a tiny little public relations firm at the time that didn't advertise with the Business Journal. So the folks that won that year, God bless them, major corporations get somebody every year. So if you sponsor the dinner, if you're AB, you get to pick one of your DEI people to win the award. If you're Energizer, you get to pick one of your boss gal types you hand them the award. But I was one of the only people that was that came from a place where I didn't purchase my award. And so it was nice. It was a nice recognition and I appreciated it. This is before Twitter. But I didn't, write about it. I didn't tell people about it because when I win an award or I get, some kind of acclaim, I generally don't go around promoting it. But yeah, it was cool at the time. And I think the award is in a box somewhere in my basement.
John, you know what? You and I have that in common because back 9 years ago, I was inducted in the St. Louis Media Hall of Fame, and not too many people know that because...
Were you really?
I rarely ever tell that story. Did you know that or not? Did you know that?
Now, are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm serious. I'm in the
last year in August, Brad. Last year in May, you might recall, I did Scott Fawn's This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update. And Scott graciously and magnanimously asked me about the show. And I took the time to promote you and talk about how great it was. And I made the mistake of saying that you were in the St. Louis Radio Hall of Fame. And the next day, when you and I did the show together, the first thing out of your mouth wasn't to thank Scott for promoting the show or thank me for praising you, but it was to criticize me for getting your Hall of Fame title wrong because you said, first of all, I did not start the traffic station with my brother. Sorry. Secondly, I am not in the St. Louis Radio Hall of Fame. It is the St. Louis Media Hall of Fame. And that's when I decided, Brad, whenever I do a show with Scott Fawn, or for example, I'm speaking at an event next week, I'm not going to mention you because I don't want to get your title and your awards wrong.
John, you've been a good teacher to me. I've learned well from you that when someone compliments you, you throw it back at them and you criticize them. I've done that well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. I appreciate that.
Okay, so the Randy Raley thing. Now, the interesting part of this is Mark Reardon is like treating him like a god. Oh, my God, it's Randy Raley. It's Randy Raley. But at one point in time, he says Randy Raley worked for him as his producer at KMOX. Now, I'm not trying to, throw shade on Randy Raley, but typically when you're a producer at a radio station, that is like an entry-level job. John, would you agree with me when I say that?
I don't know enough about radio to be able to say that.
Well, it is. Trust me. Usually,
I believe you.
When you're a producer at a radio station, that's like, intern is the bottom of the barrel, and the producer is like the next step up. So
now, Brad, maybe Randy Raley was doing the Herb Kelleher thing, where he wanted to be a producer for a few minutes, just like Herb Kelleher would get out on the tarmac for 7 minutes in front of cameras. And maybe Randy Raley just wanted to be able to say, "Look at me, I'm out here producing. I'm not too much of a big shot to be producing."
John, I recently got into an argument with a woman about Herb Kelleher. Can you believe that?
I believe it. And now, let me guess, was she upset because Herb Kelleher used to use hot chicks in advertisements?
No. My point was, I said to this woman who I didn't even know, I said, Herb Kelleher would be spinning in his grave because of the fact that all these changes to Southwest Airlines, they used to be, the nice airline, they used to have real flight attendants who told jokes and things like that. My favorite one was, years ago, I'm flying into Midway in Chicago, and we had a very rough landing. And the stewardess comes, or excuse me, the flight attendant comes on the PA system, and she says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that wasn't the plane's fault. That wasn't the pilot's fault. That was the asphalt." I thought to myself, what a great line. Okay, they poke fun at themselves. Not anymore, because now they're going to charge you $42 for a bag, and they're going to give you assigned seating, and you have to, and they're charging you $5 extra for the seat belt, and they're charging you $13 for a pack of peanuts, but you have to take the pack of peanuts. You don't have a choice. That's what's happened to Southwest. Herb Kelleher, if you put a tachometer on his grave, he'd be spinning at about 3,000 RPM right now. So because see, and the crazy part of this is people, and this woman said, well, the other airlines do it. And I go like, okay, that's like saying McDonald's has Big Mac, so everybody should have a Big Mac. And one point in time, there was competition from Burger King, or Burger Chef. They had what they called the Big Chef, which was a knockoff of the McDonald's. But the point being, you go to McDonald's for a Big Mac because that's where you get a Big Mac. And you don't go to Burger King for a Big Mac. They got their knockoff stuff like that. But that's the reason you go to certain places, because they have a difference. It's why John spends twice as much money for a stupid chicken sandwich that he could buy for half price at McDonald's. But he's got to go to Chick-fil-A because that's where the in people go. That's where the West County people go, because they don't have Chick-fil-A's up in North County because they're not allowed in North County. Do you know that?
Actually, that's why people go to Smalls, Brad. And they're too lazy to read a menu, so they ask some cute chick holding a piece of paper if it's the same as White Castle, and she's like, "Ooh, Gramps, get out of here." Yes. Also, I don't go to the Chick-fil-A in West County. I go to the one that's in St. Charles County, and I go there for convenience due to logistics in between multiple stops. Okay. But it was a good attempt, Brad. And if people don't like Southwest Airlines, are they forced to fly Southwest Airlines, or could they fly another airline?
The problem is Southwest was like a island in a sea of crap. You know what I mean? It was refreshing. The prices were low. You didn't get the pretentious attitude. And see, to this day, I've never had a problem with the open boarding because I try to be the last guy on the plane. I always try to be the last guy on the plane because I don't care where I sit. I could sit in the bathroom for the entire flight. I don't care. But you got these people, and this is the thing that this is one thing that bothers me about Southwest. The people that hurry to get their boarding pass right away in the A block, what do? They get on the plane with 14 pieces of luggage, 22 kids, and their cup of coffee, and it takes them 10 minutes when the plane's deboarding. It takes them 10 minutes to pick up all their crap, and they hold everybody else up. It's like, hey, you, slow-mo, get in the back of the damn plane. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
actually, he's Jewish, and he wants to go by Shlomo.
Slow-mo, okay.
Brad, also, let me interrupt, Brad. Okay. I know that you're upset at Southwest Airlines. I'd like to point out, in the last 12 months, shares of Southwest Airlines are up 23.62%. You say, John, that's a huge performance based on what I could have gotten anywhere else. But what did the S&P 500 do? Give me some context.
John,
the S&P 500 index over the last 12 months is only up 11.79%. So you have Southwest Airlines, Brad, which is making all these terrible decisions that are making Herb Kelleher spin in his grave. Performance is literally double the market average. So good for Southwest Airlines.
But who cares about rich guys like you? Screw you. I don't want your stock to go up.
Rich guys like me. It looks like, Brad, if people don't like the Southwest boarding plan, they can go fly Delta or American or Spirit, or they can take Amtrak. They could go simple. They could go easy. They could go Greyhound. You don't like it? Stick it up your you-know-what. Shares of Southwest up nearly 25% in a year. That's great.
And if John, and here's the other thing. If Southwest Airlines came out and said, hey, now it's part of our
I would applaud them.
Yeah, and you didn't get what I said. If Southwest
I don't
Airlines,
care. I will applaud it.
If Southwest Airlines came out and said, in addition to the normal TSA screening, we're not going to do an anal screening on each passenger, I would go, yes, that's great, because my stock's going to go up.
It depends on how skinny her fingers were.
Okay, whatever. Okay, last but not least, I haven't talked much about this. The Zoran, Madami guy, the guy in
the communist in New York.
Right. Have you heard what his father came out and said? Now, keep in mind, this is why our higher education system of universities is gone to hell in a handbasket, because of the fact he's a professor at Columbia, one of the big Ivy League schools, okay?
Oh, no. What did he say, Brad?
He said that, I swear I read this and I didn't believe the quote. It was in a news article, and I actually went to 2 other sources and I found that it was a true quote. He said that Hitler fashioned himself after Abraham Lincoln. John,
okay, like how?
John,
how does that make sense?
I mean, you laughed at that, but when I read it, I thought to myself, this guy is a nutbag. And he said because of the fact that what Lincoln did to the Indians. And I'm thinking to myself, no, hold on a minute now. Didn't Lincoln free the slaves? I mean, wasn't Lincoln, don't we look back at Lincoln as being this great humanitarian who took the slavery out of, wasn't the whole, or not the whole, but most of the Civil War fought over slavery? You know, I know there's other issues, but the big issue was.
Yeah, we get what you're saying.
And didn't
Brad.
we have.
Yeah, and by the way, I just Googled it, and you're right. Like, Fox News has the headline they quote from a 2022 speech.
Yes.
Now, it's probably not fair to hold this communist guy responsible for his dad's opinions, but it does give you a little bit of context of his background, right?
Well, it shows you what's the old saying that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I mean, when I read this, I thought to myself, I can't believe I'm reading this. This is a professor who's teaching your kids and my kids. Well, not my kids. My kids are all out of college. But this is a guy who's teaching the next generation of leaders of this country who are going to say, well, you know, Hitler was just like Hitler took all his cues from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's a terrible person because he did the same things. Hitler followed him, and look what we had in World War II. We had the Nazi concentration camps, and we have all this kind of stuff. I'm going like, this is bizarre. I can't believe I'm reading this. But
it's also, think about the fact that I was talking to your kids the other day, and they said that you always claimed that Joe Ortwerth took his model of governance from Benito Mussolini. And I said, don't blame your father for that.
No,
that was something Steve Ellman said.
He took it from.
And then Elliot Davis showed up and told me that Jesus loves me. And I said, you've been listening to GodSquad.cloud, haven't you? And you know what he told me, Brad?
What's that?
He said, no, I just tuned to 104.5 anywhere in the St. Louis area, and I hear a little church music coming on, and I hear a message from KFUO.
And once again, I'll end the show by saying, please pray for Gary Duncan from KFUO. John, have a good day. Talk to you tomorrow.
You too, Brad.